read your resume, and it's going to be, it's definitely going to be something that should be at the top of your list. You're talking about the president and how it relates to this Russia investigation. Marco Rubio yesterday says, best thing that could happen is a full investigation. Let's find out what happened and not undermine the credibility of the special counsel. Do you agree with that?
Well, no one wants to undermine the credibility of the special counsel, but on the other hand, what the president has been accused in the media of doing, or through the leaks in the Washington Post, doesn't constitute obstruction of justice. So there would be no need to engage in an investigation of something that, if the fact were to be proven, it would not violate the law. And let me make it clear what that means. So as I've said for the last weekend, here's what you've got. The President of the United States takes action after receiving a memorandum from his Attorney General, a letter actually from his Attorney General, and a memorandum from his Deputy Attorney General. In that letter, there's a recommendation for the removal of James Comey. He had been thinking about that as well. He then takes action that they recommend to remove James Comey. And now, according to the Washington Post theory, he's under investigation for taking the action that the Department of Justice told him to take. So this whole thing, if you look at it in that way and you just lay the case out like that, there's nothing to investigate. Yeah. That's the constitutional rights and protections under the president's authority as commander-in-chief.
That's why the president tweeted out on Friday that it's a witch hunt. I want to ask you, do you trust Robert Mueller? Because the people that he has chosen, his attorneys on his team, they're very liberal. Some of them work with the Clintons on the Clinton Foundation case. Many of them gave a lot of money to President Obama as well as Hillary Clinton. Can we trust Robert Mueller? He also is good friends with James Comey.
Look, Bob Mueller has a sterling reputation in Washington, D.C. When it comes to the individual lawyers that he's named to his staff, if there were conflicts, we'd raise conflicts. They do that in the normal course if there's a question about someone. If there is actually that kind of communication taking place, you would evaluate. But right now, I think the focus has to be on what we know has happened. And what we know is that James Comey, when he testified, confirmed that he told the president on 3 separate occasions he was not under investigation regarding this Russian probe. That's number one. Number two, the actions the president took regarding the removal of James Comey from office after consultation with others in a deliberative process, which is what presidents do, is not a basis upon which an obstruction case could be based, both statutorily or constitutionally. So, you know, again, and rather than getting into the individual lawyers, Bob Mueller has a good reputation, solid reputation, sterling reputation. But what we will do as the lawyers involved in the case is evaluate facts and issues and developments if they were to come, if they come. But right now, I want to be clear on this yesterday because I was on with your friend Chris Wallace. He was pushing me hard on this. Is there investigation? How do you know there's investigation? And I went back and watched the tape. And he predicated the entire statement. His very first question to me, have you been notified of an investigation? And the answer, as I said yesterday, is no.
Right. And you know what? The reason he's asking is because the president put out that tweet after the Washington Post said, we've talked to 5 anonymous sources who we're not going to reveal, who say that the president is the subject of an obstruction of justice investigation.
And Steve, ABC News reported yesterday that, in fact, their source, everybody's got these sources, not supposed to be talking about anything, but everybody's, you know, sourcing and leaking. Their source said that, in fact, a determination had not been made. To investigate the president. So again, you've got Washington Post as their source, ABC News is having their source. Meanwhile, none of us have been notified of an investigation.
Right. And Jay, what ABC says is they have not decided whether or not to investigate the president for obstruction of justice because they still have to talk to a bunch of people. And after they talk to the people, then they'll figure out whether or not they go in any particular direction, correct?
Well, what they said, I don't know what they said because I wasn't privy to that conversation. But what I'm through the leak of the again unnamed source is saying that the special counsel has made no determination to investigate or to put under investigation for obstruction the president of the United States. That's what we know. And that's where this matter stands right now. This issue stands right now.
Newt Gingrich yesterday, among the many things he said, was the president's furious. He's furious because he knows there's no collusion. More and more, you have Republicans, never Trumpers like David Brooks, who despises the president, who says, it's bothering me. We're spending all this time on collusion when there doesn't seem to be any collusion there. We have to figure out what the Russians did so we can cleanse the next election. Having said that, when the president's furious and tweets, it seems to make your job harder. When the president makes his remarks this week, as you spoke of, will he say, I'm no longer talking about the Russia investigation, I'm going to let Jay Sekulow be my spokesperson for this, like Bill Clinton put Lanny Davis in charge?
Well, look, there's no question about this, Brian, and everybody tries to draw an analogy to the process where the president has so successfully utilized social media. That this is an individual that, as President of the United States, has a social media platform that reaches 107 million people instantaneously with a message. So that's number one. Number two, I think when you study elections, 10 years from now, 5 years from now, in government management courses and political campaign management courses, what the president did utilizing social media will be in the history books as the most successful utilization of social media platforms and communication in our lifetime. So the president has a ability to communicate with a broad swath of the American people, 107 million. And look, I'm the lawyer. I don't tell him what to write or not write. I'm his lawyer. He made a statement.
But why wouldn't you?
Twitter
But why wouldn't you, Jay? You're
what,
his lawyer. You should be telling him what to. Every client should get legal advice when so much is on the line.
Well, look, I'm not going to discuss with you, Brian, and we're friends. I'm not going to discuss with you legal advice I have given or have not given to my client, the President of the United States. But I will say this, the President does utilize Twitter. He does utilize social media platforms. And again, the situation on Friday that created the press coverage over the weekend was in response to a Washington Post story that had 5 anonymous sources.
Yeah.
So in one sense, could you imagine if the president did have the opportunity to respond?
He needed
should have the opportunity
you know, I
to
agree
respond.
with you. I think he should respond because I got an alert on my phone that day that said the president obstruction of justice, and you think, oh my gosh, this is going to be breaking news the next day, and then you find out it's 5 anonymous sources. Who are these sources? Then you have Rod Rosenstein that's saying, this could be from Russia. This could be from another country. You can't trust these.
Right.
Yeah, you can't trust these sources. So the president is saying the way to circumvent these headlines. Go ahead.
Yeah, it wasn't only anonymous sources. It was anonymous sources with unnamed agencies. So I mean, but this becomes a headline in the Washington Post.
You're right.
So the president responded.
And so did you.
You know what's going on. When you look at the political atmosphere and the way the Washington Post goes after the president, they go after him every day. You go on their website right now, and there's 25 anti-Trump stories.
And they're not breaking stories. They're picking up the phone. These people are calling them who want to destroy the president. Jay, thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, guys.
The Dallas Woodhouse earlier, you were interviewing him saying that politics and government, it's not supposed to be this big. It's not supposed to be this big of a deal. And you mentioned last week, you know, in a football game or a soccer game, you remind the players, hey, it's just a game. Everyone calm down.
But I just also tell them don't lose because it reflects on your parents, which I think might be the wrong message.
And you tell them you're going to be tired of winning.
Coming up.